going to conclude just with a couple of, let's say, additional sayings from Tap mostly. But for me, it also kind of to reflect on. It's interesting that really in all the guidance and encouragement, let's say, from the maxims from Tap, it's all about keeping the memory of the heart. And it's like if you hear, or sometimes we might have this experience when we're kind of all over the place and a little bit confused, and we hear kind of a sentence, philosophical, but doesn't have to be, like a sentence of wisdom that kind of puts us back into our axis, refocuses us. Okay, it's very interesting that some of those sayings have this this effect on us, and it's because they would say that it's the heart that recognizes a common truth, a common understanding of something. Okay? And it's like that they are not so. These maxims or sayings, they're not cheat sheets, let's say, but they are more like a bell that awakens our consciousness, yeah, and makes us reconnect again with some timeless truths. So it says is that one of the things is like, even ignorance is better than head learning with no soul wisdom to illuminate and guide it. And for me, this interesting is because that it's this idea of intellectual understanding oftentimes can divide, can separate, or any knowledge that separates rather than unifies is worse, they say, than to not know at all. It's interesting. This is because they say that head learning, or something that just the head understands but we don't understand with our heart, will lead to more selfishness. And it's the awakened heart that moderates selfishness, because it has an understanding, again, like I mentioned earlier, of not only what's good for us, but what is good for others as well. And they talk about there are torch men and stone men, but they also talk about human being. It says the torch man adores with an awakened heart. The torch man's heart is so sensitive, and everything that goes through it is recorded, measured, weighed against the feather of Mart, the feather of justice. They see if things are in their place and if they can help bring things back into their place. The awakened heart always works for justice, is always sensitive to recover this harmony to the extent of one's possibilities. So they describe this idea of either the heart is like fire or it's like a stone. Either we listen to it or it dries up and we become deaf to it. It says the heart is the true measure that gives us the key to morality. Not living according to the heart makes the heart disappear. So it's this idea of what we can put in front of our heart without feeling ashamed is moral. And there's a practice that I can suggest, which is very interesting, because sometimes maybe at the end of the day, if we face ourselves, we might feel our heart literally a little bit heavy, and we don't know why. We feel, okay, the day was fine and so on, but something didn't quite work, but we don't know really why. And if we ask ourselves logically, like from our intellect, and we let kind of the day pass in our memory, we might assess, okay, yes, I've done all the things that I intended to do, polite to people, whatever. And so we might make a certain assessment of our day. And we still probably go through these things. So logically, there's nothing that was wrong or could be the reason for the heart being heavy. But then the suggestion is to ask the heart, okay, of what is it that it wants to tell us. And it's quite an interesting exercise because normally it brings us back right directly to the instance, you know, that kind of caused the little sting or the little ping. And it could be that we maybe have, I don't know, passed in a corridor, like in work or somewhere else, and we greeted someone, but we just did it mechanically or automatically, and we kind of missed it. Maybe we wanted to have more of our time and wanted to share something with us, you know, whatever. Could be many different things, okay? And it's the intellect doesn't get us there, but it's our heart intelligence that normally speaks in these kind of images to us. Okay? It's an interesting exercise. It's like the weighing of the heart, but kind of in small, on a kind of daily basis. It's a gesture practice. This also talks about language and words. It says no gift is better than the heart. Those words that reach the heart, those words do not selfishly revolve around themselves. And this again is it's kind of a little bit linked to what you're talking in Buddhism about right speech. It's where in what way can what we say help maybe ourselves and others to bring comfort and clarity. Okay? If what I'm saying doesn't bring that to others, they would consider it noise, not words, not language. It's interesting. It's again kind of another idea, another suggestion to consider and to reflect on. So when the heart goes astray, it hears to your belly. So it's this idea as if we are not listening to that intelligence of the heart, we listen to our instincts, to our desires. Of that, what ultimately connects us to that what is not lasting, not timeless. But something that ultimately, they would suggest also is not alive, okay? Because anything that we accumulate, okay, Plato talks about that in the myth of the cave, anything that we want to possess and have, ultimately goes away. Okay, anything, right? There's many different examples. But what it says is what can't be taken away from us is our sense of justice, our sense of courage, kindness. So it's that energy that we direct towards bringing that as part of our identity is what regenerates, what keeps us alive. Whereby the energy that we direct towards possessions is what weighs us down, makes us heavier. In the simplest words. So, it says, what is violent lacks heart. Who is frivolous at heart will not find an address, does not have a center, doesn't have an identity. So, what it suggests here again is this idea of the one who's violent, the first one we're violent towards is ourselves. So the first victim of our violence is our own heart. And they say that a broken heart loses its voice, its ability to speak up and to be present in all our days. So again, how does the heart speak to us? Its voice is of moderation. Okay? It's this idea of nothing in excess. And if we listen to our desires, there is normally no end, okay, to what they want. So, but to listen to the heart is to start listening a little bit to moderation. And again, this can be and has to be, always is progressive. So they say the heart has to be at the center. It's the one that scores and directs the straight path, and directs us on the straight path, which is the absence of excess. It's described as the human direction, the human path. And Confucius says about the heart that the heart of the wise should resemble a mirror, which reflects every object without being sullied by it. So it's this idea that we need to feed, like the physical aspects, for example, of the body, but we also need to find space to feed the timeless part of ourselves, our souls. Like he says, to see all the needs of the land while feeling the needs of the heavens. So it's not one or the other, but it's moderation means to give its fair share to all the aspects of ourselves. And I want to finish with just two thoughts. There's one, for me this is, it's quite beautiful from, he says the inscription on a sarcophagus, which is, I put the heart in your body so that you can remember what you forgot. And it's interesting because it describes, so this is about Heka. Still there, yeah. Which is this, for me it's quite a beautiful concept of, this is a polytheistic society, but it's a description of one God, or this divine principle, that puts the heart inside of the chest of each human being so that they can remember their timeless nature, their eternal self, the old self, that part that doesn't die, the true identity. And it's this idea that we don't lose anything that we've stored in our heart, in our consciousness. And for me it's also interesting because in all the texts that I read and that you read about, really those ancient texts, they talk about the heart, they don't talk about the mind, the rational intellectual mind, which is interesting because they've been such an advanced civilization, yeah, in, I don't know, architecture, astronomy, and so on. But what was their chief concern, really, was to live in accordance with one's conscience. So all the guidance and all the encouragement that those maxims and texts have is to keep the memory of the heart alive and to connect with the heart. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.